Hello everyone, I am Dr. Wisdom and you are welcome to Kingdom Sight. Today we are going to be looking at a brief overview on ophthalmoscopy. What is ophthalmoscopy and what are the things we are looking out for? Ophthalmoscopy is a procedure whereby we examine the eyes, the external and majorly the internal parts of the eyes. So what are we actually looking for in ophthalmoscopy? What are those structures we must look at and evaluate and give a proper evaluation? First of all, we must know that ophthalmoscopy can be done for quick external eye examination. Even though the pen touch is the choice of instrument or your slit lamp for external eye examination, but then we can use ophthalmoscopy for a quick eye assessment. And then secondly, we look at the lens. Now the lens is structured inside of the eyes, and when you do this, you should notice a red reflex. When you stand for some centimeters away from the eyes, you should notice a red reflex from the fundus. If it is white, it's either there's a less opacity or there's a case of retinoblastoma. So we should notice a red reflex when we begin our ophthalmoscopy. Now we begin with +8 or +10, and then as we come gradually, we reduce the power. So we are looking at the lens. We are checking out for the clarity of the lens, making sure that the lens is well placed, it's not displaced. These are what we are looking at for in the lens. Also, if there is an IOL in the lens, we should also note it. Secondly, we look at the vitreous humor. Remember, you are starting with +8 or +10, and as you are coming gradually, you are reducing the power of the lens. So at the vitreous now, we are looking out for floaters, we are looking out for asteroid hyalosis, we are looking out for vitreous hemorrhage, we are looking out for amyloidosis, we are looking out for persistent cysts, and we're also looking at for fetal vasculatures. So these are the things we are looking at in the vitreous. If it is clear, we say it is clear. And after that, we now go to optic nerve head. So the optic nerve head is also important. We must analyze it. So what are we looking at for in the optic nerve head? First of all, we are looking at the margin. We want to make sure that it is distinct. We want to make sure that the margin is distinct, because if the margin is not distinct, it can lead to what we call or is a sign of papilledema. So apart from the distinct of the margin, we're also looking at the neuroretinal rim. The neuroretinal rim. So we want to also evaluate the neuroretinal rim. We're also looking at the size of the disc, and also the depth of the disc. The depth of the disc is also very, very important. So the depth of the disc is the number of diopters you get in minus place. In minus, when you are going the minus direction, the number of diopters you get to see the lamina cribosa evidently. That is the depth of the cup, or depth of the disc. And after that, we're also looking at the cup to disc ratio. Now, this is the optic disc, for instance, and this is the cup. So what we are looking at is the ratio of this to this. Because in glaucoma, the cupping is usually enlarged. So in glaucomatous cupping, we are seeing, instead of this, we are seeing something like this, which we don't want. So this is the ratio of the cup to disc. And then for this now, we can estimate this as maybe 0.2, and then somewhere here is 0.3 as the case may be, and here is 0.8, 0.9. So we want to also look at the cup to disc ratio and make sure that the cup is not large. Also, at the disc, we must also note the spontaneous venous position. Very, very important. The spontaneous venous position. Now, this is not seen in all the cases, but you should see it in most of the cases. So if you look at the vein, you should notice that the vein is as if it is blipping or clicking. So it is indicative that the venous position is present. And if it's absent, it could be also indicative of increased intracranial pressure. So we want to note that it is present. And also after that, the next point to note is the blood vessels. So we want to look at the blood vessels. So in the blood vessels now, we are looking at the AV crossing. That is the anterior to anterovenous crossing. We want to make sure that there is no nipping, because nipping could be indicative of hypertensive retinopathy. We also want to make sure that there is no nasalization. Remember in glaucoma, for instance, this is the disc and this is the cup. So the blood vessels come this way and exit this way. But then in glaucoma, we find out that there is what we call a nasalization, a shift of the blood vessels. Instead of them to come this way, they are now coming this way and shifting like this. So you find out they are shifting. So we also need to make note of barring, bayoneting signs. So these are the things we should note in the blood vessels. And then after that, we also look at the AV ratio. It should be 2 to 3. The AV ratio should be 2 to 3. Also the color of the vein. We should note that there is no silver copper wiring effect or silver wiring effect. So after we've done evaluating the blood vessels, we want to now look at the fundal background, the fundus. So at the fundal background, we evaluate now if this is the fundus. We are looking at the superior fundus. We want to make sure the superior fundus is clear. We will look at the inferior fundus. This is the inferior fundus, superior fundus, and this is the temporal fundus, and then the nasal fundus. We want to examine all of them and make sure that there's nothing going on there. We also want to look at for fibrosis, make sure there is no fibrosis. Also, we are looking at for soft exudates, also hard exudates. Remember, soft exudates and hard exudates are signs we see in diabetic retinopathy, so we want to rule out for that. We're also looking at tessellation of the fundus. So you see that you see a black stretching, black and red stretching all over the fundus. That is what we call tessellation. Also, we're looking at microaneurysms at the blood vessels. We see little outpoachings. These are called microaneurysms. So this is what we look out for in the fundus. After we are done examining the fundus, we want to look at the periphery. The periphery is best examined when the pupil is dilated. It helps us to see the whole retina well. We can note for retinal detachment and vitreous detachment. And after that, we want to look at the macula. So the macula is the last point of examination in funduscopy. At the macula, we are making sure that the foveal reflex is sharp. We are making sure that there is no macular hole. We are making sure that there are no fibrosis going on. There is no vascularization in the macula. We want to make sure that the macula is healthy. So this is just a brief overview on ophthalmoscopy. Remember, you look at your lens, you look at the vitreous. After the vitreous, you examine the optic nerve head. After that, you examine the blood vessels. After the blood vessels, you look at the fundus. After the fundus, you look at the periphery, and then finally, the macula. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. See you in our next episode.